Okay, so your position is based only at 10%. At 11%, it's not socialism. It is socialism.
No, I'm not saying it's socialism. It gets closest.
Where's the line? What is socialism?
What is the taxation line? How about this?
If
Socialism is you cannot own the property that you desire.
But you're talking about me being intellectually lazy. I'm saying let's have a stringent
let me
definition
actually give
of
you a
what
real
is
example.
socialism.
California is more socialist. Texas is less socialist. That's a spectrum.
But I want
Would
to
you
know
agree with
when
that?
does socialism begin and when does it end? And I'm saying you're saying that
it's
some level
it's
of
not
socialism
like an entrance
but
into
no, but you're
Narnia.
saying if you're
It's like
saying
I'm all of a
socialism
sudden
is
here.
anti-American, I'm saying
it's a
socialism
spectrum.
is a part of America.
Okay, so you want to know when socialism begins and when it ends?
Yeah.
When you leave the free state of Florida and you enter the unfree state of New York.
What's the tax rate in Florida then?
0.
No,
the income tax in Florida is 0.
Here's Charlie Kirk talking to a college student on their take on socialism. Is the college student right? Let's see what you think.
Yes, sir.
So,
sorry, I assumed your gender.
No, you're good, bro. I'm not tripping.
Yeah, of course, because you can't misgender somebody, right?
So I was just agreeing with you said socialism is non-American. So what do you think is pro-American?
Well, let's define what socialism is, right? Socialism is the government confiscation of private property. It tends to be the rule of the few, not the many, even though they profess to say it's the rule of the many. But the American, let's just say, economic tradition is private property rights, markets with proper restraint, entrepreneurship, the ability to flourish, trade, create new products. Socialism disincentivizes almost all those things. Socialism is built largely on envy and greed. And hilarious to the people that push for socialism, the rank and file, they don't realize that socialism actually just creates an oligarchy. It doesn't actually create a strong middle class, what they allege, to want.
So do you believe in taxes?
Ideally 10% across the board. Yeah.
Okay, so you believe in the confiscation of people's private property?
At some point it depends on if it's private property income or if it's necessary to fund government services.
But that's still a confiscation with a gun through police if you don't pay.
Around 10% to fund public services,
but you
the military.
Socialism as taking private
Well, hold
property.
on. The average tax rate in a socialist type environment, and even this country, is what, 55%?
Yeah, but I'm saying taxes in general. That's private property.
So taxation is theft. I fully acknowledge a moderate form of something I hate in order to fund a government, police, firefighters, EMT is necessary.
But that's still government confiscating private
private
property,
yes.
which you said was socialism.
Yes, but you vote for it and you agree with it. I'm not an anarchist.
Why do I
never
agree?
have been.
Well, I'm an anarchist. I say any form of government existence is socialism.
Fine. Have you ever called the cops?
No, I don't believe.
Okay,
I don't like cops. They don't like me.
Okay, you ever gone to hospital?
No.
Okay, well.
All right, so let's just stop there for a second. There's obviously a high level of disingenuousness that's going on there. Because obviously, if he was in a terrible situation and somebody just beat the snot out of him and or his life was in danger, he's obviously going to call the cops. So to sit here and say that, oh, I don't call the cops, this, that, and the third, this is this young 19, 20-year-old type of perspective. I'm anarchist or whatever. Listen, Michael Malice is probably the only mainstream anarchist that I know that still follows that perspective. But at the end of the day, okay, if you need the police, people are calling the police, okay? Even a lot of minorities or BLM supporters who are anti-police still would call the police if they needed, okay? When you're in dire emergency and your health is at question and you need help for your medical situation, okay? You're going to the hospital. Let's be real. Let's not play this game. That's a little bit of a game there being played. He's an absolute liar if he says he has not done any of those things or never will. It's a complete lie. Also, what's happening here is he's trying to spin the argument, right? He's spinning the argument to say that, well, any sort of percentage of socialism, right, is obviously full-blown socialism. So if there's some form of social program that's helping people of some sort, this is obviously full-blown socialism, right? So we could already see that he's trying to spin the conversation. He's trying to take small bits of the conversation and blow it up as if it is the main focal point of the conversation. Charlie Kirk explained what socialism was in the beginning, obviously as it deployed so he could pick pieces of it apart that he likes in order to try to slander Charlie Kirk, this, that, and the third. But this is obviously a spin. This is a spin. But let's get back into the conversation so we can watch and see what happens.
One day when you go to a hospital or you use a
But
social service you
I'm
paid
saying
for.
you define socialism as a confiscation of private property, and you're saying that you
Well, let
believe
me
in
go fur-
taxes, but it's a confiscation
Okay, let me
of
go
private
further.
wages.
Let me go for the unreasonable confiscation of private property, the elimination of private property altogether. You can have a 10%
Well, that's
tax
communism.
rate.
That's not socialism.
Well, they could be conflated. Although the one is a gateway drug to the other. I mean,
Okay, but the middle ground
Lenin said
is
that socialism is a precursor to communism.
Okay, but
so.
they're still different. If it's this gateway drug,
They're
meth
both
is not
both
weed.
garden varieties of Marxism. Would you agree? They're
Yeah,
both,
I agree with
okay,
that.
all
But
right.
I'm saying weed is not meth, so let's talk about weed. It's still a confiscation. If you're saying it's the
No,
confiscation of
one is better, one is worse, and one
okay,
is
yeah, but if we're talking about socialism,
lethal.
you defined it at the beginning as the confiscation of private property.
Yes, correct.
It's also collectivized use. Do you believe in public schools?
No, I mean, ideally, I think they should be more community-based and more into volunteerism.
Okay, but
to
you
be
believe in
honest,
them in some level, right?
Well, I mean, again, this is overly abstract and academic. We live in a society where we have government schools, we have public schools, so we can talk about what we want.
I know,
or
but,
what is
but if
actually,
if we're talking about what is anti-American, what is pro-American, in the existence of what you say is American, would you say public schools are part of being American? Would you say that? That's
well, no,
part of
they are.
American
I mean,
identity?
the public school
Identity?
system was started by John Dewey 100 years ago. We
I mean,
survived without it for
like
quite a while.
what was it? During the signing of the Constitution, was the Federalists strongly supported? They were part of federalism was having a strong central
Yes,
government.
but
I would say
the
it sounds like
Federalists
socialism to me.
today would be like libertarians.
Okay,
just so
but
we're clear.
that's still a
They
strong
wanted a
central
small
government.
but strong
But
federal
strong
government.
central government still sounds like socialism to me.
Hold-
And that's
not- see,
What?
see, this is very sloppy intellectual thinking. That just because we want a police force, a border patrol, and we want clean streets, all of a sudden we become a socialist.
but those are still social
there is a
services.
spectrum between small and strong government and like Soviet-style communism.
But we're not talking about that. We're talking about socialism.
Right.
And
so
as you define
not
socialism,
not
it's a
every
confiscation
form of
private
government is
property.
socialism. Would you acknowledge that?
No, I don't.
Okay, then
But you is
Okay, so there we go. So obviously he showed his hand here where he's saying that he doesn't agree that some form of socialism or some form of social program for the individual or for the community or for the people is not full-blown socialism. He believes any form of government, even federalist types of policy or individuals or independents or people who are not Republican or Democrats, right? Those individuals are more moderate, still show some form of socialism as a result of being supportive of social programs, okay? So he is obviously using these red herring tactics to make his argument on. He's picking small pieces in the conversation and he's making it full-on conversation in which we're having. So obviously these are false equivalencies, okay? When you have a country that has a mixed economy, a mixed government style, and they give out some social benefits to the people, okay, as a benefit, as a help, this doesn't mean that the country all of a sudden is Venezuela, okay? That is not what's going on. That's not what happens. I would even argue, and I wrote about this extensively in my book, Leftism, the mental illnesses of the political left, where I would also argue that the Nordic countries, okay, Norway and Sweden, are still not even socialist countries. They just have more progressive social welfare and so more progressive social benefits. These are still market cap countries that have booming economies and booming business. And they use a lot of also benefits and incomes due to the fact that they're on a waterway there and they make money from trade due to that port that they have right there from the Nordic countries. Okay. These are, even their president has even said multiple times, I don't want Americans to start thinking that we're socialist countries, because we're not. We are market capitalist countries. Saying all forms of socialism, no matter how small or large, is still a socialist government or a socialist society is disingenuous, it's not intellectual, and to be even more blunt, it's not smart.
But you define at the
It's
beginning of this.
intellectually lazy.
No, you defined at the beginning
No,
of this that
I-
social. You
and I've-
offered a definition.
I've
that
offered
socialism
more
was the
nuance to that.
confiscation
I will
of private
say
property.
it is the unreasonable confiscation of.
But what? How do we
of wealth.
define reason?
That-
What is unreasonable?
That's up to the politics to do. I'd say anything above 10%.
Okay, well, how do you define? So
I
above
said 10%.
10%.
Where I get it from the Bible. Makes sense. 10% of what you earn, 10% of what you have goes to either to tithe or to God or to some sort of taxation system.
So just based
Again,
on
that's
the Bible,
my position. We can
your
disagree
position
on that.
Okay, so your
But-
position is based only at 10%. At 11%, it's not socialism. It is socialism.
No, I'm not saying it's socialism. It gets close. It gets further away from
Then
what it
where-
is.
Where's
I
the
mean,
line? What is socialism?
What is the taxation line? How about
Yeah,
this?
if you're
Socialism is you cannot own the property that you desire.
But you're
And
talking
we're
about me
getting-
being intellectually
how about
lazy.
this?
I'm saying let's have a
So
stringent
let me
definition
actually
of
give you a
what is
real example.
socialism.
California is more socialist. Texas is less socialist. That's a
Okay.
spectrum.
But I want
Would
to
you
know
agree with
when
that?
does socialism begin and when does it end? And I'm saying
It-
you're
it-
saying that
it's-
some level
it's
of
not like
socialism
an entrance
is, but no, but
into
if you're
Narnia.
saying if you're
It's like
saying
I'm all of a sudden
socialism is
here.
anti-American, I'm saying
It's a
socialism
spectrum.
is a part of America.
Okay, so you
even
want to
if-
know when socialism begins and
Yeah.
when it ends?
Yeah.
When you leave the free state of Florida and
Okay,
you
but
enter the unfree state of New
What's
York,
the tax rate in Florida then?
zero.
No,
The income tax in Florida is zero.
You still have to pay taxes though.
Federal
You still have
taxes.
to pay federal
No,
taxes.
no corporate
But if
income
it-
tax, no
but-
personal income
But
tax.
you still have to pay federal taxes. So if you have to pay taxes at all, it sounds like Florida's a socialist state.
But yeah, so are you trying to say America's currently socialist?
Yes. That's
Okay,
what I'm saying.
I would agree. We're going more in that direction. So,
Okay, but then
but
you were saying
socialism
that's not. You're
goes
saying Florida is not
socialism is
socialist, and now you're
beyond
saying-
taxes, though.
But wait, you just said that America is socialist, but you said Florida is not socialist. So Florida's part of
Well,
America. That doesn't make sense.
Hold on, but if you pay 20% more taxes here in California than you do in Florida, yes?
But they're both socialist.
No, but the federal project right now is more socialist than it is free market. Yes.
Okay, yes.
But in Florida, you get at least some gasp of liberty and freedom that you do not have. In California, if you're a top income earner, you're not paying 15% in addition to a 38% federal income tax rate. That's 53%. That is the government owns a majority of your labor.
Yeah.
So to be even more clear, the closer you get towards the government owning a majority of your labor and your goods, the further and further closer you get to socialism. California is that.
Yeah.
Now, I would love for the federal government to get rid of FICA tax, to get rid of the excess income tax. I've been clear. I think 10% across the board, fine. We need a military. You might not agree. We need a police force. We need a border patrol. We need basic social services that are a safety net, not a hammock. But I do not believe in this over-the-top type taxation. If you want to talk about other types of taxation that everyone here is paying, it's inflation.
But
when you borrow $2 trillion a year, you do not have, you're getting 10% poorer every single year. I'm going to get to the next question because you keep on saying the same thing over and over again. But
I'm just
final
saying,
point.
I don't understand how you can say that America, that socialism is anti-American when even the most pro-American, I think you would, as you would define, like, would you say Florida's pretty pro-American?
Yeah, I mean, they have no income tax.
But the thing is, if they still have taxation,
No, they have they're part of the federal government.
Taxation is part of America, and it always has been.
But no,
Public
it
service has
hasn't.
always been part of
So
America.
since you're such a wise guy, how did we fund the government for the income tax?
Through taxation, but I say that's socialist.
Tariffs. We didn't have an income tax till 1917. So I'm going to get to the next person. You should do more studying on American taxation. And there's a
I think you
spectrum.
should define socialism more
Not every
strongly.
form of government is socialism.
So obviously, the student bases his whole argument on red herring based perspective. Okay, in the beginning, Charlie defines what socialism is. The student takes pieces of the definition of what Charlie gave as far as socialism is concerned, and then use that as the whole basis of the entire argument and tries to make that the antithesis of it all.